here with me, Amaya, of course, on a Friday morning. It's the end of another week, and I'm sure that all of you have had a great week because it has been the Vesak festival this past week, and besides the holidays, of course, that come with the festival, I'm sure that all of you have enjoyed the festivities that have gone on around the city and have gone out with your family and friends to enjoy, as well as to share the blessings of this season. And it's great to have you here with us this morning on the show as well. Now, it's been the monsoon season so far in Sri Lanka, and of course a few showers here and there, but I hope it's been smooth sailing for you this week as well. But speaking about the business environment in Sri Lanka, now many of you may have noticed a show that we had on MTV Sports called Going Public, which was a show that explored the journey that a private company makes in transforming itself into one that's public listed on the Colombo Stock Exchange. And to speak to you a bit more about this subject, we have a very accomplished gentleman on the show with us this morning. He is, of course, an engineer by profession, but he's gone on to become much more qualified. Right now he holds a PhD in marketing as well, and currently he is the chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka. Dr. Nalaka Godaheva. Good morning, sir. It's lovely to have you on the show.
Very good morning.
And how has your morning been so far? It's just after the
morning
holidays.
Has been extremely good. Fantastic. Thank you.
And before I go on to getting to the nitty-gritties of the business environment here in Sri Lanka and what's been happening so far when it comes to the stock exchange and the business matters that happen on a daily basis. I mean, these are things that are always dynamic, always changing. Let's find out a bit more about yourself. So tell us how you came to be in this position, and what's the role that you play in the Securities and Exchange Commission?
Actually, I took over as chairman Securities Exchange Commission in August 2012. Prior to that, I was the chairman of Sri Lanka Tourism. In fact, I moved into SEC on the request of His Excellency the President, who thought that I should move in because there was a certain situation in the Colombo Stock Exchange and the capital market. He wanted me to come and address that. So it kind of I moved in a way by accident. So now I've been here for almost more than 1 year, closer to 1.5 years now, and it has been a good journey so far.
I see. So that's great to hear. But now, speaking about the capital market here in Sri Lanka, let's speak about what the situation is right now and the current sort of atmosphere that's prevailing.
If you look at the Colombo stock market and the capital market in general, right at the moment, when we are reaching mid-2014, I can say we are on an extremely good footing. Market is doing quite well, growing steadily, with more companies getting listed and more investors coming into the market. So it's a happy situation. The important thing is that we need to sustain that, and I'm very hopeful that we will be able to sustain that and make sure that the capital market contributes effectively to the development of the economy of the country, which is the highest priority for the country at the moment.
Of course, the economic backbone is essential for any country to progress, and I'm sure that Sri Lanka is progressing in beauty as well, and there's so much going on when it comes to the development of infrastructure here in the country. So does that help the market as well to grow and become a more sort of great opportunity for investors to look at Sri Lanka and say this is a good market to invest in?
Yes, actually in any country, generally the stock market is considered an indicator of the health of the economy.
Of course.
So you look at the market and say the country is doing well or bad or whatever. It's very much sentiments driven. So in a situation where Sri Lanka is very hopeful that we will be able to have rapid economic growth, it is essential that the capital market also keep up with that. At the moment, Sri Lanka's economic development is quite steady. We have been growing at about on average 7 to 8% during the last couple of years since the end of the war. And now today we can very confidently say stock market is also keeping up with that. Currently Sri Lanka's capital market is about 30% of the GDP, whereas ideally it should be in the range of 50 to 60% of GDP.
I see.
So going forward, let's say for the next 3 to 4 years time, That is our target. How can we become at least 50% of the GDP? But it's difficult in a way because it's a moving target. But GDP is also growing.
What are the factors you use to make these projections that we can grow up to 50 to 60% in the future?
Generally, in most of the markets which are similar to ours, you can say capital market should be in the range of at least 80%. Okay. In some of the developed markets, it's more than GDP. For example, if you take Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia, in these countries, market capitalization is more than the GDP. We would say ideally if you are about 80%, you can say it's a healthy situation. But because we are only 30% now, that was the situation at the end of the war, we have set a target of first reaching 50%. So that's the first milestone. That's what we are targeting right at the moment.
And it's a step-by-step process that you have
It's a step-by-step process because there are a lot of things that has to be done. Because on one side, it's supply and demand. Supply has to grow and the demand also has to grow. Supply side is more companies getting listed. Currently we have 293 listed companies. We need to grow this number, let's say at least to 400 during the next 3 to 4 years time. So that is the supply side. Then the demand side, the number of investors, institutional as well as retailers, which includes both local as well as foreign, that has to grow. Currently we have about 700,000 CDS accounts, but the number of active players in the market is probably around 60,000 to 70,000. So this number has to grow significantly. So both sides we need to work on. We need to, on one side, promote more listings. On the other side, we need to bring more investors into the market.
And also when you look at the South Asian region as a whole, I mean the Asian region actually, you see so many economies that are developing at an exponential rate. You see India coming up, you see China coming up. They're becoming big players in the international markets. So where does Sri Lanka stand when it comes to, you know, Big Brother and all of these other markets that are around us, our neighboring?
I would say Sri Lanka is currently in extremely a good position because if you look at the regional countries, as you know, particularly the East Asian countries, their development started, real development started probably 20-25 years ago. That's the time they were called Asian tigers, right? And when they were moving ahead, we were stagnant because of the war situation. So until 2009, everything was in a standstill, and even Colombo stock market index was more or less at the same level for a very, very long period. But today we are just opening up. So our opportunities are in a way greater because we can now catch up whatever we lost if we have the right strategy and work hard at it. So all you need is a proper strategy, proper vision, which I believe country is currently having. The current government has put the total focus now on the economic development. That's the right thing to do. So if you have the right strategy and diligently work at it, I believe we can do much better than most of the countries, at least for the next 4 to 5 years time.
So the weather forecast for the Sri Lankan economy is looking good these days, but we're going for a very short break right now. We'll be back with more with Dr. Nalaka Godeheva on Good Morning Sri Lanka. Hello everyone, welcome back to the show. You're here with us on Good Morning Sri Lanka, and of course today on the show we have a very special guest, and he is the chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka, Dr. Nalaka Godeheva. And we've been speaking in the previous segment about the current situation of the Sri Lankan economy when it comes to the neighboring countries as well. But I have to speak about the fact that there were a few financial crises that affected Sri Lanka as well, which happened worldwide, especially in 2011. There's a market crash and there's the Eurozone crisis. So all of these things do affect the stock market of our small island nation as well. So some people might argue that the stock market is in a state of collapse at the moment. But do you agree with this? I mean, what do you think?
Not at all. But the question that you asked is quite right. Sri Lanka stock market went through an extremely difficult period after the war. Let me explain what happened. As I told you in the previous segment, until 2009, for about almost 10 to 15 years, market was quite stagnant. Markets didn't grow. There were few players, and they were operating in the market, and they were the knowledgeable people who were operating. But after the war ended, a lot of people rushed into the market because they saw it as an opportunity to make money. So because of this sudden rush of new investors, the market started growing very, very fast. In fact, just to give an indication, market index, what we normally talk about, ASPI, grew from 1,400 to 7,000 within 1 year, which is an unbelievably fast growth. And as you would agree with me, that was a totally unrealistic growth. What happened was, it went to a kind of bubble, and then it crashed. So it went up very high in 2010, and 2011 started crashing, and the crash continued till mid 2012. That is the market fluctuation that you're talking about, which was a very bad experience for most of the investors in the market. People lost money, people lost confidence, and there were, as usual, a lot of allegations as to why it happened. We know when a problem occurs, people come up with various explanations. In fact, the reason why I was asked to come and take over as SEC chairman mid 2012 by His Excellency the President was the very reason that market was going through a crisis. But since then, we have done, I think, our utmost to bring the market stability back. But if you look at 2013 and 2014, situation is very normal, and we are growing quite steadily, and that will continue. So current situation, there's no market collapse at all, and we are doing pretty well.
That's great to hear. But let's speak about now, you've spoken about the role that the SEC is playing, but what are the responsibilities of an investor who's planning on coming in and becoming a player in the stock market?
So investor usually come into the market to make money. There are two ways normally an investor who come to the stock market would look at. One is he might want to have a long-term strategic portfolio, strategic investments, where he would invest today expecting probably to make money in 2 to 3 years time. Sometimes you may hold it even longer. Sometimes an institutional investor like EPF will hold your stocks for probably even 10 years. But on the other hand, almost all investors like to have a trading portfolio also. Certain percentage of your investment for a quick trading, where you see a market opportunity, you buy, sell and make some money. So trading portfolio as well as the strategic investment portfolio. So you are there to make money. Our advice is, when you come into the market, come with knowledge. At least come and learn. Don't rush. It is not a casino. You can't come and make money overnight. You need to understand the market, play it carefully. If you do play carefully, market has a lot of opportunities to make money. In fact, capital market has given better returns than sometimes treasury bills or the banking system, even during the war. It has always given better returns, but not for everybody, for those people who invest knowledgeably.
Of course. So understanding is very important, and having the right information.
Understanding and investing intelligently is extremely important.
But on that note, now the SEC has a dual function when it comes to how you function as a body, and that's the regulatory role as well as the developmental role. So let's speak about these two faces of the same coin.
Yeah, it's like this now. As you would understand, for us to regulate, first of all, there has to be a market. So that is where the development role comes into play. For example, as I told you, our market capitalization is currently 30%, which is far less than what we should ideally have. So if you say we want to have market capitalization of at least 50%, 60%, there is a lot of work to be done. That is what you mean by market development. So we need to see how we can develop this market to the status of a developed country. On the other hand, once the market is developed, and of course we don't have to wait for that, market has to be regulated, because our primary role as Securities Exchange Commission is protecting the investors, because investors come and put in money which is collected by the companies to run their businesses as capital. So our primary role is to protect the interests of these investors. That is where the regulation comes in. So we have a dual role, market development as well as regulation. If it is a developed market, the emphasis would be more or less 90%, I would say, on regulation. But in our case, because we are still a developing market, we still have a role to play in market development as well.
So when you are looking into bringing in different companies from different sectors in Sri Lanka to enlist on the Colombo Stock Exchange, according to your analysis, what are the sectors in Sri Lanka that are really showing a lot of promise right now, where you see a lot of potential growth